Hello and welcome once again to the Cup Experience Show, covering all the details of the 36th America's Cup. This is show 14 on March 14th down in New Zealand, day number 4 of official racing for the 36th America's Cup match presented by Prada. Hi, I'm Tucker Thompson here in the United States, broadcasting with my friend Jack Griffin, who's up late at night tonight in Switzerland from cupexperience.com. Jack, thanks as always for joining us. The question I have for you is this. Day number 1, the scorecard was 1-1. Day number 2, 2-2. Day number 3 yesterday, and it's now 3-all. So unless one team starts to dominate, if things continue exactly as they are now, this race could be won, or the Cup could be won, rather, by the team that wins the first race on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, that's right. First to 7, no win by 2, just the first to get to 7, best of 13. If they keep splitting, 3 more days will be at 4-4, 5-5, 6-6, and then you'll need that 13th race on Tuesday to be the decider. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly been a very even and therefore exciting competition so far for sailing fans. Now, before we get into yesterday's race and ultimately the races that we're going to see tonight, let's begin with the Sponsor 60. 60 seconds to thank the sponsors that support the Cup Experience. Here we go. It's beginning with Mount Gay Rum, the official sailor's rum. Find Mount Gay at drizzly.com or order your own cocktail set from the Cocktail Courier, link below. And send us your AC Watch Party photos with Mount Gay Rum. We want to put photos of you guys in our shows. Thank you to SeaDeck Adhesive Foam Decking, which will literally transform the deck of your boat. It did for mine, and it did, of course, for American Magic, among many others as well. Thanks to AkzoNobel and All Grip Fast Finishes. The sport's fastest yachts are finished with the All Grip Next Generation Top Coat HDT. Thank you to Raba and Birking Silver and their American Magic collection, which is now a collector's edition. There are American Magic-themed cocktail tumblers, bottle coasters, and serving trays, and much more. Or you can customize them with whatever you want to put on the silver. You can ask Jack for more info or order them at americanmagic.cupexperience.com. And then finally, thanks to PELLINI Coffee, the official coffee supplier of New York Yacht Club American Magic, with its PELLINI Top 100% Arabica Espresso. PELLINI Coffee, keeping sailors energized. You can find it online at amazon.com. So thanks once again to those who support our Sponsor 60. And back into the action. Now, Jack, if nothing else, this Cup has been evenly matched. One team has more starting experience, the other has a faster boat, particularly when they are ahead. One team is more maneuverable on their foils that are better in lighter air. The other has smaller, faster foils molded towards stronger breeze. One team sails positionally on the race course using match racing tactics. The other sails more expansively when they can get free. And yet, Jack, they have both arrived at exactly the same performance in these races. What do you make of it?
Same as Keko Bruni in the press conference the other day when they said, how did you guys wind up designing 2 boats that are so similar in performance? And he said, that wasn't our idea. We wanted to make a faster boat. But, with this new rule, they wound up with boats that are close enough in performance, even though very different in philosophy of what they designed them for, that we've got ourselves an even match, 3-3.
Well, Jack, it is unusual in a new design to see the boats this even, isn't it? A lot of people thought this would be a walkaway by one team or the other, and you and I are very experienced in this game, having seen the IACC boats and even the 12 meters before that, but specifically the IACC boats, as we saw one version and then the next and then the next, and by the time we got to version 5, they were very close, right?
Yeah, I mean, the early IACC boats were incredibly beamy. I think they originally thought they were going to have guys on the rail, and they then found out that 20 tons of lead, 4 meters under the water, you don't need anybody on the rail. And the boats got narrower and narrower, and then they converged, and then they're fighting to get 1/100th of a knot. These boats, it's amazing how close all 4 boats, but especially these 2, are in performance, even with very different decisions on some of the key things like foil shape and the deck layout. Incredible how competitive they are.
Yeah, no, it is. And the only difference between, I think, the IACC boats and what we're seeing here is we had more passing. Yeah, you remember that 1-second victory with the Lingy and Emirates Team New Zealand. But anyway, hopefully, Jack, we'll see passing start to occur. But one thing's for sure, the lead boat has stayed ahead so far. Here's a look at the highlights of Day 3 of the America's Cup last night.
Big crowds ashore, a big fleet afloat, and big expectations all round. Day 3 of the 36th America's Cup was Big Saturday in every way.
As we say, we'll fly the plane, you fly the boat.
With no COVID restrictions, the dockouts were back to being a big deal too. So far, the results were even. 2 days of racing, 2 race wins each. Could today change the pattern? The one thing that hadn't turned up in force was the wind. As the start time approached, the wind speed was just above the 6.5 knot minimum, hovering around the 7 to 8 knot range. Yet despite the light winds, both were killing time before the start, struggling to stay on their foils. Both splashed down, but the Italians were back up first and ran away from their opponents. By gate 1, the Italians were 32 seconds ahead. And while the margin shrunk a little, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli were never at risk of losing their lead.
I think we did a very good job on the start, and again it proved to be an important part of the race. But also I think we sailed a lot better than what we did on that second race yesterday. We did some very clean maneuvers. We sailed a lot cleaner, and the performance of the boat were up there. So I think it was the start, but also, yeah, the way we sailed the boat today.
Yeah, we obviously just fell off the foil above them, and thought we had a little more time to kill than we actually did, and didn't quite manage to get going again and take off. But yeah, obviously they shut down the race pretty well from there. Felt like we fought relatively hard, and got close-ish at the finish, but they didn't give us too many options.
Race 6, and the pressure had stepped up once again. The Italians wanted another win. The Kiwis wanted to stop it. The breeze looked like it had stayed the same, but patches were starting to appear. As both boats headed towards the start, it was Luna Rossa that got caught as they jibed into a light patch, losing pace in the process. Meanwhile, Team New Zealand had speed, plenty, and hit the start doing 10 knots more than the Italians, a role reversal from the previous race. By gate 1, Emirates Team New Zealand were 51 seconds ahead. By gate 2, little had changed, and by the finish, the margin was huge, 1 minute and 41 seconds.
Yeah, that was a good one to have the boat speed like that. Big speed difference was very pleasing, and just like yesterday, a really good reply from the guys. So yeah, good way to finish another tight day.
Yeah, basically we're happy with our positioning. Unfortunately, we just got caught in a real light spot. We just could not get the boat going back to the line. Almost a bit of a reversal of the first start, where the other guys, sort of fell into a light spot and they couldn't get going. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but not a lot of passing lanes from then on. Unfortunately, it was just too big a jump, after the start.
Whether race 5 or 6, one mistake is all it took, and it was one mistake apiece. 3 days, 3 all. It simply couldn't be closer. The Cup starts again tomorrow.
So, Jack, Luna Rossa's in a unique position here. If they want to take over this regatta, I would propose that now is the time to do it, because this, again, is going to be a light air race. The breeze is predicted to pick up as we go along, which will favor the Kiwis. So if they want to get the advantage in this regatta and really get the edge on top of their opponent, if they win 2 matches today, I think things could shift in their favor. What do you think?
I think it's huge. It's huge, and it's for either team. If either team can mark up 2 wins on one day, they will have the momentum. Now, Jimmy Spithill in the press conference the other day said, look, we're the underdogs because we're playing, we're the visiting team. We're on the Kiwis' home turf here. He's right. But psychologically, I think they need to put 2 points on the board today, and that'll give them some momentum. If the Kiwis should get 2 points, boy, I tell you, the momentum is going to really start moving fast in their direction.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100%. And, as we've consistently said in these shows recently about the Cup racing, match racing has become a key component to winning these starts. And the team that wins the starts has always gone on to win the race. I had a chance to catch up this morning with Ian Williams. He is a 6-time match racing world champion, and he certainly knows a thing or two about winning patterns in the pre-starts. And I noticed that his pattern seems to be very similar to the Italians. So we asked him about it. Here's what he had to say.
I think it's fair to say they're pretty methodical in their approach. They have a pattern, they have a timing back to the line that they employ, and I agree it does look pretty similar to one that I would employ in on the World Match Racing Tour in a standard keel boat. I know certainly that Jimmy's been sailing a lot like that in the past as well. And so the pattern is very much set up. The lead boat almost always sails out for about a minute and then jibes around. And so the choice then really is for the other boat. Do they try and lead back or do they try and push back to the line? And so we get a very similar pattern every time. And it's really intriguing to see how the different styles between Francesco stroke Jimmy on one hand and Pete on the other hand and how they're approaching it. What they're essentially trying to do is pick the timing back to the end of the line that they see as favored. So if they want to start to leeward, they'll be looking at the pin end of the line and trying to pick the moment to come back for that. If they want to start to windward, they'll be picking the time for that. And if say you're trying to win the committee boat, what we call committee boat end, the starboard end of the line, if you pick your timing back for that end of the line, you give the other boat ideally two bad options, either to lead you back and end up to leeward, or to follow you back and end up late and shut out. So that's what you're trying to do, is give the other guy two bad options. The short races as well, of course, make for less time for a faster boat to be able to get round, and also the boundaries. You get very short time on each board to get around the other boat. So a contribution of things have maybe made it more even than we expected, but yeah, it's certainly been a surprise. I thought the starting would be important. I thought it would be hard to pass, but I didn't think it would be quite this hard. It's really interesting, obviously, for me, how suddenly very important the pre-starters become. Of course, the technology on display is fantastic as well. I think we'd all like to see a few more passing opportunities, but hopefully we'll get that later on with a bit more breeze and maybe a few more shifts. And as I say, it'd be great to see some passing.
It would be good to see some passing. That's another theme that we keep coming back to is, are we going to see passes? The one thing that's clear is if you start ahead, Jack, it is very hard for the trailing boat, isn't it?
Yeah, well, actually, right now, with the trailing boat needs something to go wrong on the leading boat. A bad maneuver, some bad luck with falling into a hole in the wind, something breaking on the boat. But boy, I tell you, if you don't get one of those things, you're going to be following that other boat around the race course to the finish line. Yeah,
and I thought it was interesting to get Ian Williams' perspective. He thinks we're going to see more passing, and I thought that was a pretty good prediction, and also, he's sort of confirmed what we're seeing in the pre-starts. And one thing I want to ask you about the pre-start, Jack, is I don't think the team that wins these races is necessarily winning the pre-start. Moreover, I think the other team is losing it. For example, the Kiwis, all three of their race losses, they've come off the foils and essentially handed the start to the Italians. The races that the Italians have lost, well, they've made mistakes in the pre-start or aggressive moves early on that have lost in the match. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think you just said a magic word there with aggressive. I think that sometimes Jimmy in particular is being more aggressive than he needs to. Don't try so hard. Let the boat do the work for you. You've got a great boat. You've got a great team. Just get to the starting line at speed and in a reasonable position. And then I think you're in good shape. You've got a better boat for tacking and maneuvering. So do battle after the starting line, not just before the starting line.
Yep. No, I agree. In fact, we're going to drill down on that a little bit further with Spithill and the Italians. We're going to take a look at the pre-start of race 6, the last race yesterday, where you can clearly see the Italians had a chance to win the start and then gave it away when it got light. Here's a look.
The lefty for the line as well. team.
Diving, boys.
Hey, milking. Going now. Milking.
Ready to power up, ragazzi. Spanner.
Come delay.
They're coming up hard.
Watch the gas.
Light here, light gas here.
Flood's coming up.
Yes. Happy.
So you're going to go through the gas now.
Yes. Nice.
Real light for another 5 there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
We're going to get it.
easy. Yes.
We'll get a puff here.
Yeah.
Yep,
Speed
trying to go.
priority. Still speed priority. In the trim of main and spanner coming slowly in.
Here's the pressure now.
Yeah. Spanner.
Trying to build here, guys.
Yes.
Not loading the rudder.
Spanner. Speed.
Trimming up here. Stand by full tack start.
Yeah. Speed. Low speed.
Not at the moment, actually. Trimming up.
Gas. Again.
On again.
Jack, as a competitive sailor or a sailing fan, it's painful to watch that. However, it's very unique to get the perspective of the live audio, the feed from each boat. But as you watch that pre-start unfold, you can see where things started to unravel for them. I mean, and Pietro Sabello, he's trying to be respectful of Jimmy, who's in charge, and he is suggesting throughout the whole pre-start. And first, before they jibe, he says, the breeze is going left. No answer. Then he says, it's going light. No answer. Then you see Jimmy do that big soak down, and then he soaks again even farther. He said, milking. And that was really the key to their demise. It started to unravel from there. And then you hear Pietro, we need more power. We need more main camber. We're going to be in their gas. And then things just go from bad to worse. So, Jack, do you think this is one of those sort of political cases where the boss screwed up, and even though the employee tried really hard to sort of tell him, it just didn't work?
Well, on board any vessel, the captain is the captain, and the crew follows the captain's orders. And I don't think it was Pietro being too polite. I think, it doesn't do any good to get into an argument on board the boat. I tell you what, though, it would be interesting to hear what Max Serena and Philippe Presti had to say in the debrief yesterday after that day of racing. But on board the boat, you got to stay calm. You got to just work as a team. But it would have been nice to see them not soak down, head up earlier, and get up to the line.
It is difficult, certainly as the crew on board, a little bit demoralizing, because as things go from bad to worse, the breeze did shift left, then it got light. They were close to dropping off the foils, and then they were in their gas, couldn't make the pin. I mean, it just again, to my point earlier, it wasn't a case of the Kiwis winning the start. It was a case of the Italians losing it and just handing it to. Now, meanwhile, let's look at the way Peter Burling approached that start, Jack. It's the way he's approached a lot of these races when he's not leading in. He seems to just sort of hang out and hover close to the line, off to the right, and he waits for his moment to just come flying in, full, close reaching, maximum speed. And when he sees an opening, he takes it.
Yeah, I think that's the Kiwi way. I was lucky enough to get started around the America's Cup working with Olingi, and you had, Russell Coots, and then you had Brad Butterworth. And the thing that struck me whenever I would have a chance to talk with him about tactics, it was, hey man, keep it simple. Just get to the line at speed, on time, and keep things simple. Let the boat do the work. Don't try to get too fancy. And I think that's what Burling's doing. He's, whether he knows it or not, consciously, he's carrying on in that same tradition.
Yeah, and the simple lesson, even at the highest level of the sport, is, as you say, keep it simple. The KISS philosophy, keep it simple, stupid. back to basics. It's the theme of our show tonight. You know, you don't have to overcomplicate it in order to win. And I highlighted this last night. We're going to do it again tonight for those that might have missed it. The pre-start lessons that we've seen so far in these shows in the America's Cup that are helping these teams win their races. Port entry, we've noticed, is very strong. Coincidentally, in yesterday's races, it didn't work, but in the other 17 or so races, it has won every time. Leading in is very strong. I feel almost ridiculous saying it, but ironically, the Kiwis didn't lead in and they won yesterday's race. But I often wonder that if the lead-in boat doesn't give the start away due to coming off the foils, as we saw with the Kiwis, or due to bad timing in light air with the Italians, how they would have done. And when the breeze is up, that might be different. But one thing is absolutely key in every single start, whether you lead in or follow, whether you port approach or starboard approach, whether you want the left or the right, timing is absolutely crucial. And the boats that have better timing into the start are the ones that are winning. And then finally, if you're going to push, you've got to push early, or perhaps not at all, which is what the Kiwis did, more of a hands-off approach. And once again, the don'ts of AC 36 pre-start lessons: don't drop off the foils. It is the kiss of death, obviously. And also, don't do high-risk maneuvers. So that's what we're seeing. And Jack, once again, we're going to get into racing tonight with day number 4, March 14th. Luna Rossa is going to have port entry first, then Emirates Team New Zealand. My question to you is, if we're going to see a pass in these races, do you think it'll be in tonight's light air or perhaps later? And if we do see a pass, who's it going to be from?
Who's going to do it is a good question. I guess it's whoever loses the start. But you know, seriously, it's going to be, if we get into conditions where it's kind of patchy, kind of shifty, there are holes, and you have to do a connect the dots up the race course, that's going to give somebody an opportunity to pass. If it's relatively even across the pressure, across the course, and the shifts aren't too big, it's going to be the boat in front stays in front unless they make a mistake.
Yeah, so tonight, with light conditions predicted, it'll be harder than perhaps the next few days. I want to see a team win 2 races. I think that's going to be defining moment for whichever team that might be. Here's some more comments from you guys, the viewers, on Facebook. It's good to see real match racing. I couldn't agree with you more. Either team can win. That's also a very fair point, and whoever wins the start wins the race up until we see a pass. As Jack said, it'll be hard, but it is possible. Here's somebody I'd like to see the next AC in Europe. That would be very cool. If you're a Kiwi fan, I have to apologize, but it was a great event when it was in Europe once. I think that would do a lot for it commercially and certainly for the viewers. What do you guys think on Facebook? Who has the edge? Jack, it's interesting here, 53% vote for the Kiwis, 47% for the Italians. This morning, it was massively in favor of the Italians. 2 reasons, I think, for that. People were voting with emotion, ironically, voting for the Italians. And also, I think more viewers from down under were waking up. And as the day went on today, we started to see a swing back in the Kiwis' favor. This is probably an accurate depiction. So, Jack, what will we see in the breeze in Auckland tonight?
Yeah, latest report from Ian Murray in his briefing this morning in New Zealand was wind is very light, 4 to 14 knots. Will we get races off? I don't know. That's right at the limit for being able to run races at the low end. Winds out of the east-southeast. Going to be an interesting day out on the race course.
I certainly hope we do get racing in, Jack, or my wife will kill me because our family vacation starts this weekend. How about the race course tonight? Which one do you think it'll be?
Ian says he's going to be out near Rangitoto Island again, race course A, a little bit further south than this shows here on this diagram, but race course A.
Okay. And of course, as always, you can watch the shows on television, tape delayed on NBC Sportsnet, or live real time on NBC Sports Gold. And the Ask Jack section, Jack's got an interesting one he's putting together for tomorrow's show about the computers on board and the cameras. Jack, I ask you this, I put you in the hot seat at the end of every show. What are your predictions for tonight? Who will win? How many races?
I think today's Luna Rossa's day to put 2 points on the board and really build the momentum. That's let's see how smart I am, but that's my prediction. 2 points for Luna Rossa today.
Okay, my prediction emotionally, I want you to be right, Jack. You know, I kind of think the Italians in the underdog position after 20 years deserve to pull off a big upset and win this America's Cup. Having said that, I think it'll go 1-1 again, which means this show's just going to keep on going. Anyway, we end with our traditional toast. I've got my glass of rum here from Mount Gay, and this bottle keeps going farther and farther down throughout our shows. Jack, I know you're up late at night with PELLINI coffee, so cheers to day 4 of the America's Cup.
Cheers.
Okay. Well, folks, that wraps up another show here at the Cup Experience. We want to thank the sponsors for joining us, and we want to thank all of you from around the world who are logging on Facebook or YouTube. You can like and follow and share. We certainly hope you do. Tell your friends. Send us your comments on Facebook, or you can email us at TuckerTLive. Also, send us pictures of you guys enjoying Mount Gay rum or PELLINI coffee. We'll put your comments or your photos in the shows. You can also go to cupexperience.com and click on the Ask Jack segment to send us your questions, and Jack will put together a very intelligent and crafty answer that we will answer right in the show. Anyway, that wraps up another Cup Experience. Day number 4 of the 36th America's Cup begins in just a few hours. For Jack Griffin, late at night in Switzerland, and Mason Sheen, our producer-director here in the United States, I'm Tucker Thompson. Thanks once again for joining us on the Cup Experience.